Hi everyone, it's TanyaMFK here, and welcome to another lesson in Project Shop. It is the month of design, which is in perfect time for the holidays and all of those things that you may need to create. So we are learning to design with Canva, and here we are in lesson 3. Are we ready to go? I think everyone survived this far. You guys are learning a lot. I know there's a lot. Hopefully the tutorials have been really easy to get in and just see how to use it, right? It's just, this skill is gonna be so helpful as you move forward. So like I said, we're gonna just go ahead and jump right into lesson 3. So I'm gonna get my little slideshow here going on. Presentation, let me try to move my little head out of the way there. All right, so as we know, it is Project Shop. And you know how it works. We get our live lessons, or our lessons. Now we're recording them. We should change this up, right? We're recording them actually now. But you get your lessons every week. You get your assignments every week. They're due every Sunday at midnight. You have email support, and when necessary, we can jump in and do live Q&A. And when you keep following along and do everything you need to, you're going to have a project finished by the end of the month. All right. As we talked about, we're designing with Canva. Super exciting. We learned in week 1 how Canva works. You just got to see all of the robust features. You got to see me mess around in there and understand what all of those things do. So helpful. Honestly wish somebody had seen that when I first started, because I just kind of had to dive in there and figure out, like, how does this work? What's going on here? And it was a little tough, but once you get a hang of it, as you see, it's actually really quite user-friendly. Last week, we also did fonts, colors, and images, understanding how important it is to choose the right fonts, understanding the colors, understanding what you can do with images, and really how they relate to your brand, right? How they relate to really setting something up for your business. And now we are in background shapes and layouts. You're gonna understand a little more about how to use those to the best of your advantage. And then week 4, we will dive into some more specific branding for your business. So as I said, background shapes and templates, which actually is layouts, templates, kind of same thing, but not. Why do they matter? Right? Backgrounds, they set the stage, they give a vibe, they set a tone, they really they can illustrate a point, they make things just look pretty. It's good, you know. We don't always just need that white background, right? I mean, just a simple flip of color, a solid color in that background alone can make such a big difference, can make something pop. There's also, of course, as we learn, textured backgrounds, all types of things, and we're going to dive into that a little more, but backgrounds are so helpful. And then shapes, you might think, okay, well, I don't know how often I need stars somewhere, but you're going to learn that there are different ways to use these to create nice layers and essentially layouts for your designs. Okay, so we're going to learn a little more about how to use shapes where they aren't just, you know, little decorations. Okay. So then we're going to go into our template layout designs. And these are, as I told you, like awesomely fully customizable in Canva. We saw a little bit in our first tour that we can move everything around, change all the colors, do all types of things. But we also want to learn a little bit how we create our own layouts in general. How should I position it? Where should I put it? They have great examples of what you can do. You can use them directly, or really sometimes just use them as inspiration. Sometimes I can see when I go, ooh, I like what they did there. The picture's on the left, it's kind of a box. Okay, let me just make my own a little more to exactly how I want it. So another great thing with the templates I want to mention too is that you are not the only person using Canva. I know that might be surprising, but because of that, trust me, there are a lot of people who jump in there and they use the exact template. They don't change anything, sometimes not even the photo, and they throw something on there. And the problem with this is, honestly, I can spot them a mile away. I use Canva so much. I'm like, oh, there's the Canva one. And it just starts to look the same. It's going to start to look homogenous, and you're not going to stand out. So get the idea, use it as inspiration, but really make it your own as much as you can. Okay. So let's see where we are next. As I said, our agenda here, background shapes and layouts. Now let's dive into backgrounds. So let me get over here. I want to look at how you can use text with your backgrounds and how to really use this empty space. So you notice here with the girl in the picture here, the girl sitting down, they've actually put the text on the empty spot of the page, and they just kind of dulled that picture out a little bit. So it's really nice to think about using the background as a place to use text and really that empty space of the background. The more limited that the elements are in the photo, the better it's going to look, right? So if we put that text like right over her head or her arms, like there's a lot going on there. So it kind of gets lost. But when we can take, something that, yeah, there's still texture, there's still something going on in the background, but we've put it over in a more empty space, you can see how nice it really looks, and it actually pops. And the same thing here with our It's the Day of the Seafarer. You see right there where we're using that empty space on the sky area, and really, the water, even though it's textured, it's all solid color, so it kind of creates a nice spot to put some text as well. And this text is really bold, so it has an easier opportunity to stand out. I have all these little like toolbars here kind of in my way, but as you see here, by resizing and adjusting the placement of your images, you can work with specific photo features to place in your text in creative ways. So again, this picture with the water, for all we know, may have had a boat to the right or something going on, but we've really just enlarged it, and we're like, let's just use this part. And if this was a solid photo, like a solid color, It's the Day of the Seafarer one, let's just say it was just all solid blue. It's nice. I mean, it still works, but this simple little image just adds a little more to it. Just using that as a background, right? It just kind of helps it a little bit, gives a little more depth, and it's a little more fun. So that's just an interesting way to show you how you can use that. So this one is fun because it's my example. In case you guys are new here, anyone new here, you'll see that's my husband and my baby. What I wanted to show here was the transparency. And transparency is really, it's making things see-through, right? It's you kind of dim it out. You're making the photo less obtrusive. And so in this example here, you're going to see, like, I had the text, I had the little promo, and I just put the image. And so far on the left here on the screen, you'll see, like, you can read it, but there's a lot going on. It's kind of messy, right? Well, so then I was like, well, why don't we go black and white? Well, it helped a little bit, right? Like we kind of see there in the middle. But what happened next is I took the image and I went almost halfway to transparency. So now the image is see-through. Now, one thing I might have cheated a little bit here. You'll say, okay, she went a little see-through, but his picture is very dark. I actually have a solid black behind it. So as I went transparent, it kind of gave it this darker image. So that is something, if you go transparent, you're like, I'm not getting the same vibe. You can actually choose a color that goes behind your image that you're making transparent to give it that filter almost. So if I put purple behind there and I made this image transparent, the whole image would start to look kind of like purple. That's a little advanced, but really it's not, right? Like you put a solid background on there and then you put the photo over it, make the photo transparent to your, preference, see what it looks like. It kind of gives it that cool vibe background. But now you'll see my text is so much more clear. It's easy to see, but you still kind of have this, happy, father behind the photo, right? Husband's going to love that I use him as an example. So I thought this was fun because, again, I'm not a designer either, guys. And these are just things that I've learned and picked up by using Canva. And I thought it was pretty cool. I kid you not, the day that I made this, I told my husband, I'm like, I made a pretty cool ad with you and our son. And so that's how excited I was about it, that even at night I was still thinking about it. I was pretty proud. So transparency, that's a way that you can do that. We learned in our first lesson where that little transparency bar is. When in doubt, just whatever element you're working on in Canva, once you click on it. So if you're working on text, you click on your text, all the options of what you can do with text are going to pop up at the top. Once you click on a photo, all of the options of what you can do on a photo are going to pop up on the top. Like this is when you're using your design and you click on your photo. So if you're like, I don't see these tools, make sure you're clicked on the thing you want to work with, and then you'll start to see all of the tools and options that you have. Just a little reminder there. So this example here is just about using contrast. So the contrast is here, they've used a few elements here really, right? They've used the empty space, the quote unquote white space of the image, which was the water, and they used the white. So we have this white in the photo, and they've taken and said, okay, well, we can take the contrast from this blue and use white again right there from the water. and look how much it stands out. And it really does. It blends well. It all matches, but it still stands out. You're like, yeah, I clearly see there's something there. So this is a nice way to use your photo as a background and choose ones that are going to have that right amount of space and color contrast against your text. So again, obviously, if they put this white section, if this was like an all white photo, still that snowy mountain vibe, and then they put the white text, it wouldn't really work so well, would it? Clearly not. So this contrast of the blue is really nice, simple thing to do. So I hope you guys can see how you can use that. So now here, just something to think about as well is using borders with your text. So on the left, you'll see I have another image of my son, and you don't even know it's him. You just see like, oh, it's kind of a baby. They're playing in the little play balls there. And I've used the border to give a space for the text, right? I've used this block of color and a border around it to give a space for the text. So you don't need to use the whole image. Like, you kind of get the idea. You see there's something fun going on there, perhaps a child. We don't, even though his face is adorable, we don't have to necessarily have it on there. We don't have to worry about always showing the whole picture. In general, I think when we get to marketing, we get to design as people, we feel like we have to have all of it. Like, I need this whole picture and they have to show all of this, and we forget. And this is like, if you ever try to take a really cool photo, you're like, why didn't it just work? Because we didn't necessarily need the entire scene. Sometimes it looks really cool if it's just this part of the tree or this part of the lake or this part of the face, just a close up, of, I learned one time, I'm tangenting a little bit, but I learned one time, like with baby photos, you're always like, look how cute they are, look and take a picture. But some of the coolest photos sometimes are like just the baby hand and just the baby foot. And you're like, wow, look at that. And that's so cute and it's strong. Like, yes, the whole child's adorable, but sometimes just the feet is enough. So same thing you'll see in this photo. So adding this frame around really brings the highlight to the text so it doesn't get lost. And the same thing in this solid color version we have on the Christmas gift sale. So you'll see here again, we have this nice border, adding a little depth so it's not just kind of solid color. So really, really easy stuff to do. And again, these borders and shapes, like we talked about, to find those in, you'll find those in the shape section. But this is a way that we take these backgrounds and we're able to, you see different styles of ways to use these backgrounds with using the borders around the text. Okay. Another way to have some cool backgrounds are to create your own textures. So in this one, you see on the left, they have the whole photo, kind of exactly what we were just talking about. You have this whole photo here, and it's a beautiful photo, of course. But look how cool when they said, you know what, let's just go right on the sand, and they put it over and just on that. And you're like, wow, this gives it a really cool texture. I still know what it is, but now what I'm trying to say takes center stage. Right? Now, here's the difference too, guys. We're not here creating photography books. We're here to convey a message. We're here to sell something. That's my tea. You're here to get a point across. So that's the most important. That's what takes center stage. Remember that. So in here, they resized the image within the grid, and they were able to use just the texture in the image as the background. That was the way that they created this. So I thought that was kind of neat. And another thing to think about is using blocks of color. So once you've chosen your background, use another background to like highlight your text. So here they've used this solid color, kind of rectangle to give a clear backdrop for this text here. And it also gave it a really nice pop of color. It really brings your eye like right to it, right? So that, I always love that. It's such a simple thing. It's just a solid color behind your text. So this is a great way to just enhance that for you. Another great thing you can do with your backgrounds, you saw it a little earlier, if you have an image and you're like, but I really want this photo and I want to convey that what this photo does, or, then blur it. If it's taking over, if it's taking too much away from your text, but you're just dead set on using it, blur it. We still get the idea. We still kind of understand it and see it in the background, but it's now not taking over, and our message can still get across. And again, like, that's the important part, right? So this one says, if you choose a photo with rich textures, something a lot that's going on, then adjust and blur on the image so that you can place text on top and it still stays sharp and readable. Now this one, they still, because of the white on white, which they were dead set on, They actually created a box of color, but I like this just so you can see, we know what it is. We don't even see a head, but we know that that is a bed, right? We know somebody's sleeping in right now. Like, you already get the vibe. We don't even have to have the full photo or a clear photo at that. So another thing to look at, and you guys saw this really in the image, version of the image that I did with the sale and the Father's Day one, was to desaturate your image. And that's just a fancy way of saying, like, don't make it so bright and vivid. Take that color out. And this again happens in that filter section. This happens where you can, change it. You can adjust it manually, or you can click on those photos. And you're basically just, if something's too bright and you're like, I want this photo. Again, I want this photo, but it's so everywhere. How can I mute it a little bit? Like, ladies, if you're, listening here, it's like your matte lipstick, okay? Instead of the shiny, goopy, like, whoa, lipstick, it's that matte color, right? That's kind of what we're doing here. We're taking all the, it's like, look, we need to tone you down a little bit, image. And that's really what decreasing the saturation means. And you'll see when you go into the section, so you clicked on your photo, you've either checked the filters or you go into the part where you can do it yourself. You custom do it. It's actually called saturation. So, go to the lower end, and that would be desaturation. And then of course, if you go to the higher end, the plus side, then you're going to increase that saturation, which just adds even more vivid, crazier colors. So here you'll see we've kind of muted these coats in the background. And they still use the block of color, but it wanted it to really just kind of be nice in the background and go with the style and vibe they were going for. And then on the right, they have this cool, architecture, kind of shape going on. But again, you're like, it's too much. We want our, text to be the focal point. So they've taken a lot of the color of that. They actually went black and white with that one. So you see, again, it doesn't take over, but we still understand what's going on in the background. So you can create a nice contrast by overlaying, this bright and bold text over these images. So now, everyone doing okay? Take a deep breath, take some tea. That's what I need. It might be like, she drinks a lot of tea. I am in Sweden, guys, and it's cold. That's also why I have a cute outfit under here, but it's cold, so I have this jacket on. All right, so we're getting into shapes. Oh, we have all these little tools everywhere. So looking at our shapes. First, let's go to something really simple and basic here. We're going to go into resizable squares and circles, right? Like, okay, squares and circles. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm sure when you first look at squares and circles, you're like, what do I, like, do I just put a random square somewhere? Like, why would I do that? You see here how big of a difference using a square and a circle can make, how nice of a vibe it can give, a style. Like, literally, the one on our right is just a photo. It's just an image, but we have this circle over it, and the circle, notice, is slightly transparent, gives it just a little bit interesting texture. And then they have their core message that they're trying to share on there. And the same thing with our image on the left. There's actually two squares. So we see the whole image, and then we've just layered a square over it to make our point. It's all black and white, but it looks really kind of cool and hip. So with using this, we can draw emphasis to exactly what we're trying to say and give a nice frame, right? It's a little more exciting than if we only had that black square, this general meeting Q4 plans. I'm like, that's it. I mean, yeah, I get it. I get the point, but it's a little more fun, and you get the design element when you have this image there. And same on the right. Like, these are not interesting topics personally. Yeah, you can see like they have a nice design to them. Maybe it won't be as boring to look at. So again, looking here, I want to talk about infographics a little bit. Now, this may be kind of advanced. I'm not sure if you're using infographics in your business, but infographics can be a lot of fun. And really, the biggest benefit, there's a lot of definitions for infographics, but I really think that you can take kind of a lot of information, not so exciting information, and make it easier to digest in like a simple, like, graphic way. You can see, just go, oh, okay, I see how this thing works, because you're making it kind of look more fun. Let me just skip ahead and show you an example here to see like, what the heck are you talking about? So right here, you see these are some infographics. This is a lot of information. This could be a long, article. This could easily be a long article about creating your business plan, starting a business, like here's this whole page, managing your business, here's the page. Or we got, this is really cool. This one right here is actually professional career timeline. So somebody's writing, all the things that they've done in this like infographic version, right? Like if I had to write a resume, that'd be a really cool way to like stand out, right? Over here we have business startup costs. Again, maybe not the most exciting, but still information that you need to consume. And how much nicer is it to consume in this version? So you might say, yes, Tanya, this looks really nice, but what's your point? And my point is look at these and let's break them down into what they really are. On the left, creating your business plan, we just have different colored rectangles with a couple of white colored smaller rectangles. That's all that is. They've added some text, a couple icons. That's an entire infographic. You might imagine, look at this at first and be like, oh, well, that's intense. Granted, it's a few more shapes going on, but really breaking it down, it is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rectangles with a couple of, they added the same white rectangles here, just kind of squeezed them smaller. We added some text into each of them, and then the rest are icons. That's all it is. And that's really what all of these are. Look at the business startup cost one. Again, we have rectangle, rectangle, circle, 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 and some text. Super easy, right? So yeah, you can do this. And this is a great way, again, at a glance, someone to consume a lot of information. If you're trying to explain something about your business or a product, or even a challenge or a process, this is a really nice way for someone to be able to get the point and consume that information. And maybe you just maybe you're not a blog writer, it's not your thing. This is a great way to work around that. And it looks neat and it can be used over and over. People can, keep these on their desktop or even print them out if they have to say, and they keep them around if it's something really helpful, like a checklist. I've seen things like this for, what to keep in your fridge or, when to know something goes bad or something. And they print them out and they keep them, near their pantry. So again, super cool. That's infographics. Again, if you're like, wait, what were those called again? That's an infographic. So here again, now I want to look at looking at text size. So text size, this is scaling, right? So we're moved into scaling a little bit, which kind of works with shapes as well, but it's really ultimately what this is scaling. And that just means, mix it up. Like let's make our text a little bigger. Adjusting the scale of your text will help you enforce specific elements and sentiments of your message. So you'll see here, Celebrate Victoria Day. It's a lot bigger. It pops with that color at the bottom. And again, I want you to notice the picture in the background is so muted. It's barely there, but it's just enough that you're like, I get it. Like I know it's happening. I know they're celebrating. I know there's like some fireworks back there, but it still keeps the message front and center. Again, on the left, we have this April 15th tax day because we need a reminder for that. But, it has the image in the back, and the most important part is standing. At least the first part they want you to understand is right there, telling you what's going on. And then if you're still interested, you'll read the small text. If you're like, holy crap, what do you mean it's tax day? Or learn tax tips. Okay, I need to call this reallyGreatSite.com, or I need to go to reallyGreatSite.com and find out what I should be doing. So you'll see just text size. Also image size. Now we just talked about this, about focusing on just one part of the image to make an emphasis on what you're trying to say. So here, National Sunglasses Day, you literally only have one eye of the sunglass, and that's okay. It looks really cool. I don't need the whole desk, which is what this image was, an entire desk. You just took and said, let's just get on the sunglasses and let's put this National Sunglasses Day. I had no idea there was a National Sunglasses Day. I'm not sure that I know and or need to have a National Sunglasses Day, but apparently it exists. It was all over the place, guys, when I was looking through images. So again, it's June 27th, National Sunglasses Day. So here we have National Iced Tea Day. Gosh, there's so many fun national days. But again, another point where we just went right in on the iced tea and used that image there. And then we have this National Chocolate Ice Cream Day. Now, I'm sure this image was really cute. She could have been having it, this lady holding it has a great big smile, but we went right in and said, let's just get the ice cream cone. So you see, it makes a big difference. So keep that in mind as you're putting these together. Big images, big text. Don't be afraid to mess around. So everyone doing okay? So you're making it through. You've made it through, and we're almost done. So now we have our layout design. Let's move my little head over there. So one way to look at a layout is something I think most of us would probably go to first anyway, which is right in the middle of the page, like center it up. And guess what? That's not a bad idea. Like, you're actually doing quite good, especially again, because we are here to do things for our business. We are not, if you're making art, you do you, make whatever works. But center is good with business because you have a very specific point you're trying to convey. Usually it's in words, so it's text, and it's great when you have that just right front and center. So and this says here, whether you're working with shapes or text, you can center the elements on the page, and that creates a clean and focused design. So you see here we have all different types of backgrounds. We're using all different types of shapes layered on there, some transparent, some simple, some like this design on the right actually has got a lot going on. It looks simple in one way, and then the other, you're like, wow, there's circle, oval, dots. Like, there's a lot going on. But you can just see, again, everything's centered right there and very clear. So that is a great way to just start with your layout. Don't worry, you're not being lazy. Another thing you want to think about as you're doing layouts is to use consistent margins. This is why the grids are so awesome, because if I was trying to create this design here with the 4 images and it was up to me to make sure that that little white space in between was working, probably not a good idea. Either I'd be like moving it in tiny increments like for hours, or I would just be like, screw it, it's going to be uneven. So instead, you go to that grid section, pick a grid that has 4 images, put them in, the grid's already set. So you really want to make sure those margins are clean and clear. And again, too, with the box in the middle, that's centered very well. And as you may have noticed as you've gone along in Canva, is that there's those little lines pop up as you're moving things around to show you where the center is. Like, it couldn't be easier, guys. Like, it's so awesome. So I think that one's pretty self-explanatory, but the one on the right I want to show, because the one on the right, it's not my favorite design, but it has a lot going on, and they've still managed to keep everything spaced nicely. It's all like drawn, the margins are clear. It draws you right to the middle. You have a nice consistent spacing in between everything. You see the colors pick back up. Like I said, not my favorite design, but even if you have something kind of with a lot going on, it's important to make sure that you have this spacing and the margins, as you will, margin spacing, whatever you want to call it, consistent, nice and clean. It's not a huge gap over here and a small gap there. Everything's just spaced out just right so it's even. Okay, so that makes sense. Using consistent margins. Now we look at creating clarity and emphasis. Hold on. This is fun. So this one, what they've done here really is, we've gone back to white space, and you're just looking at how white space, again, can be used to draw attention to an element. So all, again, that means is where there isn't a lot of stuff going on, that's the space that they use to put their message. So here you have the eat, and it's not over the chopsticks. Here you have the my escape. It's used in that section of the sky there. So this is kind of redundant, not my favorite part, so we'll skip and past that. Here, use color to create white space. And this is something I just want to remind you guys that it doesn't have to actually be white. That negative space, that empty space, you'll see here this nicely fun image of this dog without the text. I wish I could cover it to show you guys here, but if you cover up that text, you'll see it's a really pretty empty image, but it works perfect for throwing the text there, and it's just really nice. The image creates a frame. And then again over here we have our Happy Buddha Jayanti, and it could easily just have been a white thing, but we just added a color, and it just helps it stand out just that little more. Simple little thing, just add some color. All right, so you just see it helps things pop. Now, this is important. I do want to talk a little bit about text hierarchy, which is really just a fancy way of, who's on top, what's the most important, so think of it like, your king, queen, subjects, peasants, and whatnot. Your text needs that same thing. So you want to make sure that you don't have everything the same size. Make sure that you're using your main point, your main message, you know, the thing that makes them want to read more. If you guys are in the copywriting course, then you know the thing that your headline, right? Your headline that makes them want to continue read. Your job isn't to get the whole message in one section. You want to get just enough that makes them stop and go, ooh, I want to read the rest. And when you've done that, that next, the rest that they're going to read can be a slightly smaller size. And then something that's kind of just an afterthought, we make that a little smaller. Because remember, these are designs. These are not, this isn't a sales page, right? This is not here to do the selling for you. This should be just enough to convey a short message, post something on social media, or get them to take an additional action, right? So again, we're not trying to like write our whole thing here, unless you're using, of course, that you know there's different templates here, but for this particular lesson, we're focusing on a social media post. So you'll see here are some great examples. Get lost in Stockholm. You're like, wow, okay. And then it's, you know, fly to the capital of Sweden through the airways. So my first thing is excited about like, ooh, maybe I should go and get lost in Stockholm. That sounds interesting. And then I say, oh, there's some great deals on this airline. Here we got National Wine Day. That's the main point. Now think about this. If they had switched it to bottoms up, you're like, okay, bottoms up. It's some drinking. I don't know what's going on here. But they started with National Wine Day. That's the biggest text there. And then I can see all the fun stuff once I read on. Like, oh, it's National Wine Day. What else is happening? And there's something going on at a club in New York. And here we have a nice thing here, this walk more, drive less. That's the main point they're trying to convey. And then you'll see that they share their hashtag and then their website after that. If you were to make you're like, oh, but my website's so important. I want them to be able to see it. If you make that the biggest thing, I'm not interested. I don't even know why you're giving me your website. What makes me want to click on it? So if you have enough compelling information or something that makes them want to read more, they're going to get to that point, right? So we're not just throwing like giant signs at them. So text hierarchy, that's what that means. Keep it in mind. You really should not have more than 3. If you end up with like 15 varying sizes of text, like that is just, it's going to look messy, even if it's all the same text. All right. So make sure we're not doing that either. And here, just contrasting large and small images. You just see here that you kind of have this like busy image at the top with lots of stuff. You have the shells, you have the flowers, and then we have something that's a little more focused. We see still kind of, you know, the rolls of, you know, the towels and the coconuts, but then we have a close-up of this lady's face. And this mix-up is really nice. So don't think that the images have to all be similar. Like, oh, well, this one is grains of sand. So I also need like pebbles, and then I'll also need, you know, tiny stars. No, you can do, you know, maybe if we go back with that idea, we can have the grains of sand, and then we could have like a giant rock, right? Like that contrast is actually very nice. So just know that this is something you can do. So that's really it. That's the different ways you can look at backgrounds, at some of the, you know, really design elements there, and look at shapes. Another thing for shapes too, as I mentioned, is you know, you can put words over those shapes. You can create nice text that can really bring highlight to something you're trying to say. So instead of just the shape for the shape's sake, you know, use the shape that, and I'm sure you've seen this before, you know, a little star, and maybe that's where it says 20% off is like in the star. So you're using that as a placeholder for your text, not just squares and circles and other shapes, but some of the fun ones as well. And then you saw there's different things we can do with our layout design. So don't freak out, but you have 10 tutorials, but I'm telling you, it will take less than an hour. If you've breezed through and gotten the hang of our last 2 weeks of the tutorials, you'll see that they can be done very fast. They're very intuitive. So we have a lot, but again, they're really short. They're not going to take you very long. Honestly, like a couple of minutes each is really how long it takes. But just in case you do get stuck, it could take you up to an hour at the longest. But you're going to really see here, again, how to play with the backgrounds, how to bring text and images together. So you'll kind of play with the white space. really look at how to create some of your own backgrounds, and then see some of the tools that you can use with the backgrounds, right? So you'll really have a nice, rich understanding of the backgrounds. And then we're gonna move into designing with shapes. So you'll see a couple ways that you can play with the shapes. And we'll even mess around with like infographics. You're not gonna make anything crazy like that, but you'll at least see how you can layer shapes to create some of those images that you saw. And then you'll play a little bit with scale, again, making big text, small text, and also with alignment. You know, is my text in the center? Is it off to the right? What looks nice? And then diving into a little bit of working with the white space of the image, and then the hierarchy of text. So again, you kind of saw this. It's really not as complicated as the things sound, but it's one thing to understand it. It's another thing to go in and do it yourself firsthand, so you really, really have it as a skill, right? So that's the point of this. Once you've done that, let's go in here. Once you've done that, I just want you to move forward now in your own design and go, okay, what is the background of my image going to be? So far what we've done is we know what we're going to write. We've chosen what our image is, or what our post sizes. Most of you have chosen social media, which is good. Well, everyone posts social media, but you picked which one, whether it was Instagram or Pinterest or whatnot, and you've figured out what you're going to write. And now we've gone into looking at our fonts and what colors we're going to use, which should really be based on your brand and your business. We've done all that already. So now we want to just pick your background. Is it going to be white? Is it going to be a solid color? Is it going to be a rich image that we need to blur or desaturate? And if you're going to use any shapes, you are not required to, but if it makes sense for you to use a big square for your text or something, then make sure you have that chosen, and then start your layout. Start playing with it, because we only got one more week left. And I guess you can guess that next week it's going to be our final design. Okay, so if you have any questions, as you know, you're going to go ahead and email me, Tanya@buildabiz.net. And your assignments, as always, can be found at the bit.ly/Peace Shop Assign. So you can always find your links to what you need there. Have fun designing, guys. I'm really, really excited to see what you're going to come up with, and then see them on social media, and then you're going to be amazing designing stuff. Okay, have a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. I'm still here. Bye-bye.